Thank you for the wonderful Mangla Charan. So today we are doing the Bhagavad Gita and we are on text 28. So Shashwin, would you like to read the text 28? No? Or yes?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, just read the text.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sattva sadhu bhave cha.
Hare Krishna, Shashwin, I think it is text 28. Ashraddhaye hutam datam.
Ashradaya hutam dattam tapastaptam krutam chayat asad ityuchyate prarja rachan tatriyat pretyano iha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Kanchanajba Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my obeisances.
My humble obeisances. On behalf of everybody in this group who have joined and who will be joining soon. So Prabhuji, we are reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we are on chapter 17. Chapter 17 is called the Division of Faith. And the text for today is text 28, Prabhuji. So we've just read the text, but haven't read the translation and purport.
Okay. Would you like to read the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'll read the translation.
Okay.
Translation. Anything done as a sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Partha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for reading the translation, and thank you, Sashwin, for reading the Sanskrit. We can read the purport. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anything done without the transcendental objective, whether it be sacrifice, charity, or penance, is useless. Therefore, in this verse, it is declared that such activities are abominable. Everything should be done for the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. Without such faith and without the proper guidance, there can never be any fruit. In all the Vedic scriptures, faith in the Supreme is advised. In the pursuit of all Vedic instructions, the ultimate goal is the understanding of Krishna. No one can obtain success without following this principle. Therefore, the best course is to work from the very beginning in Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. That is the way to make everything successful. In the conditional state, people are attracted to worshipping demigods, ghosts, or yakshas like Kuvera. The mode of goodness is better than the modes of passion and ignorance, but one who takes directly to Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all three modes of material nature. Although there is a process of gradual elevation, if one, by the association of pure devotees, takes directly to Krishna consciousness, that is the best way. And that is recommended in this chapter. To achieve success in this way, one must first find the proper spiritual master and receive training under his direction. Then one can achieve faith in the Supreme. When that faith matures, in course of time, it is called love of God. This love is the ultimate goal of the living entities. One should therefore take to Krishna consciousness directly. That is the message of the 17th chapter. Wow. So thank you all for hearing the purport attentively. This is a purport by a pure devotee telling us to take association of pure devotees, because the association of pure devotees is the fast track. It's the key, the fast track back to Godhead. So thank you all for taking part. Thank you all for inviting me. I'm very blessed, privileged, and honored to be part of this Eldoret Sangha once a week. And thank you, Kirtika Mataji, for always inspiring me and encouraging me to be here with all of you. So thank you. So we'll share a few things with your permission and blessings on this last text of chapter 17. What is Krishna saying? Well, ultimately, we should take up Krishna consciousness. This is the thing. We should take up Krishna consciousness. Anything done in sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme is impermanent. It's called asat and is useless, both in this life and in the next. So whatever we do, if it's in Krishna consciousness, it has eternal benefit. It has benefit not just beyond this life, but beyond the next life. It has benefit that will last forever. So doing something in Krishna consciousness, whether it's a penance or a charity or sacrifice, is actually permanently useful. It's building a bank balance of spiritual credits. And this is what we're doing. Even though we shouldn't think of this in a fruitive way, ultimately what we're doing is we're building a bank balance of spiritual credits. So we build this bank balance of spiritual credits, and with this bank balance of spiritual credits, we take to the process of Krishna consciousness with the desire and motivation to go beyond birth and death. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go beyond birth and death. And if we do charity, sacrifice, or penance for any other reason, it is impermanent. That's what Krishna says. Prabhupada goes and says things like it's useless. And when he says it's useless because it's not going to benefit us eternally. So I may do some sacrifice, and I may do some sacrifice. I might study for an exam. Now, in one sense, when I study for an exam, we can say it's not exactly useless because I can pass the exam, which is true. When Prabhupada says it's useless, he's looking at the grand scheme of things. He's looking at the big picture. And the big picture is, are you studying and making that sacrifice of studying or working for your ultimate benefit, or are you working and studying for your impermanent stay in this material world? So it all depends on our consciousness. This is what it depends on. What are we thinking? What is my desire? What is my intention? Where am I going with this? If my desire is to work so that I can maintain myself, so that I can be peaceful because I'm working within my nature, and that so I can practice Krishna consciousness more enthusiastically, then that sacrifice is giving us eternal benefit, because that's our consciousness. If our consciousness is, if I work very hard, this is one thing I heard growing up when I used to always find it a bit crazy. Just work hard during the week, then you can rest on the weekend. Like, okay. You work really hard and you get to go on good holidays. You get to buy a good car. Okay. But then as we grow up, we come to realize that, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? The amount one needs to work. It's madness, actually. It's madness what we need to do, the amount of effort that is required just to maintain. Imagine just to pay your bills. In the UK, I'm not sure exactly in Kenya, but I think Kenya is also the same, similar. In the UK, one has to work so hard just to have a roof over their head and have their basic necessities, like work really hard just to do that, just to live, forget anything else. And then because that becomes so tiring, one works even harder to enjoy themselves. So this sacrifice is useless, because all that happens is you maintain yourself and then you die. You maintain yourself, you had a bit of enjoyment, and then you die. So Oh, 1 second. Let me just put in my plug. I think my wife has taken the plug out of my laptop. 1 second. Yeah, I think yes, sorry. I thought the plug was in and it said 7% battery out. But anyway, we got there. We didn't cut out. So we are trying to work for our eternal benefit. And how do we do this? What's the fast track? The fast track is take association of pure devotees. That way we can take up Krishna consciousness directly. If we hear Krishna Katha from pure souls, then we are going to get attracted to Krishna. So when we first come to spiritual life, most of us, especially if we came to Krishna consciousness when we are young, then we have a lot of passion. We have a lot of energy. So what we do, we come into spiritual life, come into Krishna consciousness. I remember when I first started coming to the temple about 20 years ago, and I was young, I was a lot of energy. So what could I do? And remember, because we're so full of contamination from the material nature, then one does not have attraction to hear. One does not have attraction to chant. So then what does one do? One does lots of service that engages that passion, that engages that energy. So it's like, go here, go there, go on Harinam, go on this, do that, go to this program, go to that program, take this here, take that there, just doing something. And what happens is we use the energy, and what happens is we become purified. We're purifying ourselves. And then later on, through that purification, what happens, we actually then desire to hear and chant. We actually have that desire. Now, I can be like 5 years ago, I remember going to Govardhan retreat. I went a few years before that as well. It's very nice. You go to Govardhan, you're with Sachinanda Maharaj and Burijan Prabhu and, these exalted Prabhupada disciples, and you're at the feet of Giriraj, and you're hearing Krishna Katha, you're singing Krishna's names, and it's just actually blissful. There's just no better time in life, I think, than being in the holy dham with pure souls and hearing and chanting Krishna's name. It's amazing. Before Govardhan retreat, there is a holy name retreat. And I always used to think to myself, that just doesn't appeal to me. It just doesn't appeal to me. Holy name, I don't know. It doesn't, but and why? Because it didn't appeal to me because I was just too active. Okay, I don't mind going to Govardhan retreat because I'm hearing a class, this, that, but to chant and to focus and to meditate, it just seemed a bit too Krishna conscious, actually. That's what it is. It's a bit too Krishna conscious. But now I'm actually thinking, I just love to go on a holy name retreat. I would actually love to sit. So, but why? Because we've grown older. The energy is shifted. We've done some service. We've become a little bit more purified. So what happens is then the desire comes. Actually, I want to go to a holy name retreat. I want to sit and I want to learn and I want to experience the holy name in a different way. So these things happen through natural inclination. Naturally, we will feel more inspired, and that's the best sacrifice. That's the best sacrifice. The best sacrifice is to chant the holy name, as Krishna says in the Gita. So to chant is the greatest sacrifice. So why is it the greatest sacrifice? People might think, okay, how is chanting a sacrifice? Because we're offering our attention to Krishna. That's a big sacrifice. You're sacrificing your time to offer your attention to Krishna, because what gets your attention is very important to you. Now, most of us have a smartphone that gets most of our attention. That's what gets most of our attention. Look at Prahlad. Look at his picture. So what's that? It's a smartphone. This smartphone has got all our attention. It's a nice picture, Prahlad. So this smartphone has taken our attention. It's our attention. And if we use the smartphone in the service of the Lord, then it's a very handy tool. Just like a hammer. If we need to hammer a nail into the wall, a hammer is very useful. But if we just hang around with a hammer and you just keep banging things, it actually causes a lot of disturbance. So similarly with our mobile phones, it's a good tool. If you need to make a payment, if you need to read something on database, if you need to send an email, it's a good tool to have. Yes, the smartphone is a good tool. But if we're just on the phone for the sake of being on the phone, it's just like having a hammer for the sake of having a hammer. It just causes disturbance. But instead of physical disturbance, it causes mental disturbance. Oh, I'll just check Facebook. I'll just check the WhatsApp. And for the sake of it, you just go onto Instagram and Snapchat and all these other things and Twitter and WhatsApp. You just decide to just send messages, and you go into a group where people are arguing, and then you decide to get involved in the argument and get involved in the debate because you haven't got anything else to do. And what happens? Mentally, we become drained. What have we done? What have we done? We've sacrificed our time in something useless. So this is here what Krishna is saying, that this is impermanent. So this sacrifice is impermanent. Our sacrifice should be, can I give my attention to Krishna? If I give my attention to Krishna through the chanting, actually giving him attention. Can I chant without looking at my phone? That's a big sign. That's a big sign. That's saying to Krishna, actually, Krishna, I'm putting you first. I'm putting you first. Can I chant without looking at my phone? Can I sit in one place and chant the holy name? Can I hear Krishna's name? Can I hear Krishna's pastimes? Can I hear a class without being distracted? So all of these little things are signs of our advancement. If we're becoming more inclined to hear and more inclined to chant, and we're feeling more and more and more that we're so far, far away from Krishna, then we're making advancement in Krishna consciousness. If we're feeling every day, I'm just amazing and I'm the best devotee, then we know that there's a long way to go still. If we're feeling this kind of, oh my God, I'm such a great devotee, look at me. Just like, oh, just look at me, look at I've got a shaved head, I've got a shikha, look at that, look at my tilak, oh my God, I've got oh my God, I've got a das at the end of my name. I'm amazing, I'm so great. If we're feeling like this, oh, I give such good classes, people are appreciating my classes, oh, I must be amazing, oh, everything must be about me. If we're feeling like this, then we know we are so far away. We just know that actually we're missing the point. We came to become Krishna conscious, not me conscious. So when we use our energy and sacrifice to please Krishna, this is beneficial. If we use Krishna, and it's very subtle, if we use Krishna to promote ourselves, then this is disturbing. It's long term, this is disturbing for us. Why? Because we don't actually then make the advancement that we could. We don't make the advancement that we could. So when we say advancement, what is that? Advancement. Advancement is a deeper longing, desperation for connection with Krishna. That's what we're actually hankering for. When we think of desperation for Krishna, we think of the gopis when Krishna's leaving Vrindavan and their desperation for Krishna. When we think of desperation, we think of Maharaj Dashrath and Kaushalya when Ram is going to the forest. This is desperation for the Lord. We think of Bharat when he came to the forest begging Ram, please come back, I'll stay in the forest. This is desperation to please the Supreme Lord. But if we're feeling that actually it's all about me, if we're feeling that I need to promote myself, I'm in it for me, then naturally what will happen after some time, we will not feel like hearing and chanting. That's the thing. We won't feel like hearing and chanting if we don't grow up. Ultimately, what we're trying to do in our spiritual life is to grow up. When we first come to Krishna consciousness, just like a little baby, when a little baby is playing with the toys and makes a mess, it's okay because they're just a little baby. So when we first come to Krishna consciousness, if we're doing service just to promote ourselves, it's okay because we're just little babies. But after some time, if that's what we're still doing, if a baby becomes an adult and still makes a mess, you're thinking, why can't they just clean up? So after some time in our spiritual life, if we're still acting like babies, Krishna is thinking, why can't they just grow up? Why can't we just work on ourselves and take the next step? Sometimes we feel, why is it that when I first came to Krishna consciousness, it was so blissful, and now it's not so blissful? Well, two things. One is when we get that initial taste, that buzz. When we get that buzz, then we really get attracted to devotional life. And then when that buzz goes, what's happened? Well, one thing is that we've started to become offensive. That's one thing that's happened. We started to become offensive. And secondly, Krishna wants us to work on ourselves, because we have to work on ourselves. When we become offensive, what happens is we spend all our spiritual credits. You lose all your spiritual credits. It's like you went to the supermarket with your wallet, and the wallet was full, and then you lost your wallet before you did your shopping. So you went to the supermarket. When you got to the supermarket, you realized your wallet is lost, so you could get none of your shopping. So similarly, if you've got spiritual credits, you have spiritual credits, and you go to the supermarket, the treasure house, and what you want is love for Krishna. But before you can use your spiritual credits to get love for Krishna, what happened? We offended. And when we offended, we wasted all our spiritual credits. We lost our spiritual credits because of our offenses. And when we offend the devotees, the first offense, when we chant the holy name in the morning, the first offense is not to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to the propagation of the holy names of the Lord. Now, this offense does not mean just the Mahabhagavats, just the sadhus, just the exalted devotees. It doesn't mean that. When it says blaspheming devotees or dedicating their lives to propagate the holy names of the Lord, anyone who is chanting the holy name and trying to share Krishna consciousness, even if they're a new devotee, if we offend them, we're wasting our spiritual credits. We're losing our spiritual credits. Krishna consciousness is a personal science, which means it's a personal business. We have got no right to treat others badly. We've got no right to treat anyone with offense. We are nobody in the grand scheme of things. Even if we have got a big position, even if we've been in the movement such and such years, we have no right to treat others badly. So if we treat others badly, we are saying to Krishna, I'm treating you badly. That's what we're doing. We're telling Krishna, this is how I feel about you. Because if we can be like that, if we can be rude, if we can be offensive to Krishna's devotees, that means we are happy to be rude to Krishna. Just like if someone comes to my house and says, Kanchanajba, Prabhuji, oh, you are so kind. You give such nice classes. You are just such an exalted devotee. You are amazing. And naturally, I'll start feeling encouraged and inspired. And then straight away, they look at my daughters and they say, oh my God, those children, they're so naughty. Ugh, terrible kids. How can they even be like this? What are they doing? What happened? Everything they did for me became useless because all I'm thinking is, how could they treat my children like this? How could they treat my children like this? They can say what they want to me, but why are they speaking so badly to my children? That hurts me more than anything because they're my two little kids. So this is how Krishna feels. If we offend devotees, he's thinking, you're coming to me, you're chanting my name, you're paying obeisances, you're doing all the things, but then you go to my devotees, the ones I love so much, and you're shouting at them, you're being offensive to them, you're breaking their heart. I don't want you. Purify yourself and then come back to me. The love is never lost, but he temporarily withdraws his mercy. temporarily he withdraws his mercy until we atone. How do we atone? There's shama, we beg forgiveness, we can ask for forgiveness. And there's also anuraga, which is that we go beyond to serve that devotee. And when we serve that devotee with love, with attention, with focus, with deep compassion, when we serve that devotee and we've pleased that devotee, and that devotee is so happy with us, then we get their real forgiveness, and then we can attract the mercy of Krishna again. So just like this person who may have come to my house and shouted at my daughters, they could say sorry, sorry. And my daughters would say, okay. And they may even say to me, Prabhuji, I'm sorry I shouted at your daughters. I'd say, okay, I'd forgive them. My daughters would forgive, but still I'd feel something. But then maybe they went to the ice cream shop and they bought some ice cream, and they came and they gave the kids some ice cream. And they said, and then they took the child to the fun fair. And then they took the children back home and they said, I wanted to make up for what I did. And then I would feel so happy. My children would feel so happy. And then we're smiling, we're happy, and that person is truly forgiven. So when we offend someone, it's not just a case of paying obeisances and asking for forgiveness. That's only half the job. The other half of the job is, how can I serve them and please them and go the extra mile? Without doing the other half, we're not going to attract that mercy and actually become truly forgiven for our offense. So these types of penance, these type of sacrifice is the penance and sacrifice we should be doing. Serving the devotees, pleasing the devotees, and not being offensive. That's also a sacrifice. That's also a sacrifice. Why? Because Kali Yuga is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, which means that quarrel is so tempting. It's the biggest temptation. I feel myself personally, when I'm on a spiritual high, the one thing that brings me down is when I hear about what other people have done and what other people, especially in the extended family, when you hear some family politics and this uncle did this and this auntie did this and this cousin did this. And then what happens is I naturally get into it. And when I get into it, I start noticing, I say things. Oh yeah, why did that uncle do that? Terrible. Why did, and then, and slowly, my heart, which was feeling so spiritually nourished, starts to feel dry. It just starts to feel dry. And then what happens, I don't feel as enthusiastic in my spiritual life. So why is it, so the biggest sacrifice for me is when I hear this is to not get involved. How can I not get involved in this degrading conversation? How can I get involved in this offensive conversation? And we don't have to think, oh, but they're not devotees, it's okay. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. The fact is, when we water the root of an offensive mentality, that plant of offensive mentality will just grow. That creeper, that weed will just grow. So what we want to water is our bhakti lata bij. We don't want to water the weeds, because these weeds will just grow and then more weeds will come. And then, yes, the person that they're talking about isn't a devotee, but next time it will be a devotee. Because if we've got that sort of mentality, then we'll just do it to everyone. We can't switch on and off as much as we try. I can give you an example today. So I go to the school, my children go to the Gurukul. So everyone's a devotee. So I go to the Gurukul. I'm a trustee at the Gurukul, so I have a position there. I do some service there. So when I go to the Gurukul, I'm Mr. Kanchanajba, such a nice devotee, Hare Krishna. I act the act. Yes, Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I'm always doing all this. I'm always trying to act like I'm such an advanced devotee. But today, my daughter My 4-year-old daughter, I told, she bought a new pencil and a new rubber. She lost the rubber at school yesterday. And so then there's a new pencil. I said, leave it in the car. I'll leave. Didn't listen. She didn't listen. So while I'm on the way, I'm telling her, where's the rubber? You lost the rubber. And now you're taking the pencil. Terrible. And all these parents are hearing. All these, because all these parents are hearing. So what happens, whether you can't just switch on and off. You can't just switch on and off that with devotees, you're someone, and with other people, you're someone else. You are who you are. So yes, people got to see, the devotees got to see my real side today. They got to see, oh, he's not Mr. Nice Kanchanajba. He is some nutcase father who's telling off his child just over a silly rubber and a pencil. You know, but this is the thing. If the mentality is a certain way, we can't be different and pretend in front of the devotees, because who we are is who we are. It's just us. That's who we are. And this happened today. And then one devotee said, oh, what happened to her rubber? And then I got, oh, yesterday she lost her rubber. And I'm telling her, I was just getting so upset. It's just, then I think about it. Why do I even care? It's just a pencil and a rubber. What's the big deal? And this is the thing. You can't switch this on and off. So you can't just be like, oh, I won't offend I'll offend the karmis, I'll offend the non-devotees, but when it comes to devotees, I'll be careful. It doesn't work, because we are who we are. So we can't water the roots of weeds. We can only water the roots of our bhakti lata bij. We can only water the roots of our Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we are really going to struggle to make genuine advancement in our Krishna consciousness. Genuine advancement. This genuine advancement, how do we know? Are we longing for Krishna? That's genuine advancement. Are we desiring to go for Mangal Arti? That's genuine. Are we desiring to chant the holy name? Are we desiring and studying the scriptures? Do we want to hear about Krishna? Do we want to associate with devotees? Do we want to visit the holy places? Do we want to worship the deities? These are signs of advancement. Desiring these things and doing these things with attention. How do we know that we're not making advancement? Am I desiring more and more material enjoyment? Am I becoming more and more entangled? Have I made excuses why it's okay for me not to associate with devotees? Have I found reasons? And all these are signs that actually maybe we've made some offenses, because when we make offenses, we don't want to be with Krishna. We don't want to associate with devotees. And when we are making advancement, actually, we don't want to be materially entangled. We don't have that desire. Like let's say you like going to the cinema, and you go and you like to watch Bollywood movies or Hollywood movies, and you go every Friday. But for this Friday, like tomorrow is coming, and you just don't feel like it. I just don't want to go. Why? I just want to sleep early and wake up early on Saturday and go to the temple. I just feel like that. If this is how we're feeling, then we know we're making some advancement. It's a natural feeling. I don't feel like watching that movie, which I've been doing every Friday, which I've loved doing for so long, and I feel like going to the temple early in the morning on Saturday instead. That's a sign of advancement. That's nice. It's good. So we can check in with ourselves. It's not a bad thing to do. It's very good to introspect and work out whether we are making some advancement or not. We don't have to be pretentiously humble about it. Within ourselves, it's good to know whether we are making advancement or not. It's a good thing to do. And if we're feeling the taste for Krishna, but at the same time feeling so far away from Krishna, this is when we're making genuine spiritual progress. You want him, but you feel like you're getting further away from him. But you want him and you feel like you're getting further away from him. This is genuine spiritual progress. If we don't want him, and you could, and it doesn't matter where you are, it's just whether you want him or not. I remember living in the ashram, and I think I was least Krishna conscious in the ashram, because when I was in the ashram, I used to keep thinking about when can I go home to see my mom and dad. When I've been out the ashram, I'm always thinking, when can I go to the temple? So it doesn't matter where we are. It's where's our consciousness? Which situation is going to suit us best so that we can desire to be with Krishna more and more and more. And with any sacrifice, with any form of charity, with any form of penance, if we do these things for Krishna, if we give to Krishna, whether it's our money, whether it's our time, whether it's our attention, whether it's any sort of austerity, like waking up early, if we're doing it for Krishna, it has a permanent effect. If tomorrow morning someone said to you, wake up every day at 4 a.m. and you'll triple your salary. Okay. Triple your salary. Okay, no problem. Someone says to you, wake up every day at 4 a.m. and go for Mangalarti. Not yet. So there's something, we know what we desire more. I was saying to one devotee recently, I said, you have a price. And he said to me, what do you mean? I said, you have a price. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I bet you if I stood at the temple door every day with a 20-pound note, so that's around 2,000 shillings. I said, I bet you if I stood every day at the temple door at 4:30 in the morning with a 20-pound note, you would make it here every day. He said, I don't know about 20. I said, even 10 you'd come. But I said, I'm giving you 20. And we were just laughing. But we have something that we actually, and when we hear this, we're thinking, actually, I do desire something more. So someone offers us 2,000 shillings a day to go to Mangalarti, or to wake up at a certain time. That means, what does that mean? That means we actually think of 2,000 bob is more important to us than Krishna. That's where we're at. Or even if it's 5,000, maybe 2,000 is not enough, whatever it is, 5,000, 10,000. But the point is, no thousands, even if it's 100,000, is not going to give you eternal benefit. Whereas going for Mangalarti in the morning and seeing Krishna at that most intimate time, that most intimate time in the morning, and singing the samsara prayers, nothing in the three worlds can compare to that. Nothing can compare to that. So this is what we have. If we sacrifice for Krishna, we are absolutely benefited. If we sacrifice for the material energy, we are temporarily benefited. So we make a choice. We make a choice. We might not be able to feel it straight away, but it's worth the feeling that we will get, which is a desire to want Krishna more and more and more. And that's worth it. That's worth any amount of more than any amount of money, because at the end of life, no matter how many 1,000 bob notes we've collected, none of them can come with us. But if at the end of our life, we're still longing to see Krishna in the morning, you've perfected your life. So this is real sacrifice. Let's give this one life to Krishna. My spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami, was instructed by Srila Prabhupada. And I remember this instruction because Maharaj used to speak about it all the time. And Prabhupada said to him, just give this one life to Krishna. You've given so many lives to the material energy. Just give this one life to Krishna and just see what happens. So this is what we can do. Sacrifice this one life. Let's see what happens. I'm sure we will naturally feel the joy. Susukam kartam avyaham. We will naturally feel the everlasting joy in the sacrifice. It's not just about renouncing. Renounce and rejoice. So we renounce and we rejoice in that renunciation, and that is real sacrifice. Jay, so thank you very much. So there's some thoughts on chapter 7, text 28. If anyone would like to share any comments or questions or corrections, please do feel free. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Such a nice and wonderful class. But we have some doubt, Prabhu. You told we are agree. We supposed to not be commit mistake on the devotees, because they often not about some offenses on the devotee. And also you telling about the school, you have a such type of behavior on the devotee or Hare Krishna, everyone like the pleasing mood, pretending. And when your child lost the pencil and rubber and eraser, you're supposed to be shouting. I'm not telling you, this is very, point is that, uh, my question is, doubt is that, Prabhu, when something is going wrong in temple or in center and any other in your material life also, as you are a devotee, you're supposed to be telling, like protest in that way or not. As I am a devotee, but he stole my property, my things, and how can I survive? We're supposed to be become angry. Like for example, when Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu was beaten by Jagai Madhai, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when heard, he rushed away and he called the Sudarshan Chakra to kill them. So we saw that thing, we heard that one, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so furious to kill them, to punish that one. So as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Mahabadanyaya, if he is supposed to be do that one, then what we supposed to do material contamination so much? How can we just keep it quiet or let them do? I am a devotee, I cannot do offense. So please, can you clarify, Prabhu?
Yes, thank you so much, Prem Prabhu. Very nice comment, very nice question, very important question. When we are dealing with devotees that have done something wrong, then as long as we're in the position to correct them, then the best thing to do is to correct them. So to not correct them would then become a disservice. To correct them is a service. So if someone is stealing something, we have to chastise them and correct them if we're in the position to chastise them and correct them. But the problem is a lot of the time we're chastising and offending devotees when it's not really our business. Someone else is meant to do it. So let's say if a devotee is doing something in the center and you're the person that's looking after that devotee, or that devotee is under your service or your care, then yes, we should, because unless we chastise them, they'll go and do it more. And then actually we're making their situation worse by not correcting them. So it's not about correction, it's about being offensive. And if the mentality and the consciousness behind the chastisement is that they can understand what is right and what is wrong and understand how to become better devotees, because obviously if someone steals something, then they're not going to make very good spiritual progress. So is our consciousness in the mood to uplift them? Or is our consciousness in the mood of our ego being affected? And if it's about our ego, then that's when we have to be extra careful. But if it's about actually uplifting their consciousness, and sometimes uplifting their consciousness might have to be done through chastisement, because that's the way that devotee will learn. Some devotees need to be chastised to learn. Some devotees need to, and it's a very personal science. So what does it mean by being a personal science? We have to get to know the devotees that we're serving with. Some devotees will be better off, you put your arm around them and say, Bhakta, whoever you are, or some such and such das, Prabhuji, you shouldn't do like this is like this, and they'll improve. Another devotee, you smash them a little bit, and that way they'll listen and they'll shake up and they'll improve. So we have to get to know them on a personal level. It's not a one size fits all, because sometimes chastising someone who can't take chastisement might make them worse and steal again, and that makes it worse. But sometimes chastising someone will really improve their life. So I think it's a case of compassionately wanting them to improve, for their benefit, for their upliftment. And in that way, it's not offensive, because that way we're actually helping them. There's always two things to consider. Am I serving them? Am I serving them in a way that they will be making spiritual benefit? And is it spiritually progressive for myself, the way I'm dealing with the situation? We can think of the two things. Is it serving them, and is it spiritually progressive for myself? And if we think about it before we angrily tell them, if we think about how we're going to approach it and then approach the situation, then I don't think it's offensive, because we're doing it in the mood to serve Srila Prabhupada. So these are just my thoughts. I'm sure Prabhuji, you're much more experienced than I am in these situations. But
nice. Yes, Prabhuji, it's okay. We're supposed to deal according to the situation, and we're supposed to be think about the improvement. It's not like that a police or degradation, not like that. It's okay. For sure. Prabhuji, one thing is that if we are in a Vaishnava society and we are all small or less, we are doing for the progress of the Prabhupada mission and everything. If some senior Vaishnava doing some offense and some mistakes, so can we protect or we can just keep it quiet and we can depend upon God? And what is if a senior Vaishnava doing that, then what is our reaction?
Yeah, so I think again, it's a really good point. If a senior devotee is doing something wrong, I think every devotee has an authority. Every devotee has an authority. And ultimately, everyone in ISKCON is under the GBC. So there's always some ultimate authority, even if the senior devotee is a sannyasi. So ultimately, if it's something that's wrong, something that's incorrect, and we're not in and obviously because they're so senior, it's not our position, then someone who has got the authority to speak to that person can be informed. I think anyway, that's my personal opinion, because otherwise, the whole concept of Bhagavad Gita is that Arjun didn't want to act, and Krishna is telling him you should act, because if you don't act, that is the worst thing you can do. So if we, because why? Because Arjun concealed the injustice, and if Duryodhan becomes the king, there's going to be more injustice. So if we are seeing injustice and we do nothing, then we are the cause of more injustice. So sometimes it takes bravery, spiritual bravery, to do the right thing. That's my humble opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So it means that to cover up a sin, if you covered up your sin, you are also a sinner, even if you didn't commit that. If you see something wrong.
If I see someone outside killing the next door neighbor and I don't tell anyone, and the police say to me, you are now also part of this crime. Maybe I won't get the same punishment as the murderer, but I'll still get some punishment for not mentioning the crime. So we all have a duty and an obligation to make sure Srila Prabhupada's movement is progressing as well as it can in Kali Yuga. So hopefully there's always a devotee we can approach to correct devotees if we're not in the position to correct them.
Hare Krishna, are there any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Arya Govinda Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful class. Actually, I wanted to have have a clarity on, like you were saying that being a devotee, we should not be, we cannot have dual personality. Like with the devotees, you are very nice and very humble, and then you're trying to be a devotee, and then in the outside world, you are when you're mingling with karmis and you're doing your work, and then in a work atmosphere, you can't be different. You have to inculcate that mood of devotion, that you have to see every soul as part and parcel of Krishna. And then, but sometimes practically it becomes difficult, it becomes challenging. How do you practically apply that? Just thoughts about that, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. We shouldn't have a dual personality, and I think mainly what I was saying with that was that we shouldn't just save our good side for the temple and have another side somewhere else. We should have our good side everywhere we go. And if we're in the work environment, yes, we're not in a devotee atmosphere, but if we are practicing Krishna consciousness with some sort of sincerity, then what will happen is Krishna's love will be radiating on us. And if Krishna's love is radiating on us, then we can spread and share that love with others. And spreading and sharing that love with others doesn't necessarily mean directly saying to them, you should chant Hare Krishna. but it might just be being kind, just having the qualities of a devotee and being kind to others, and trying to uplift them and trying to help them even come to the mode of goodness. I remember one devotee when I was in Nairobi, one student, he was staying at the training center, and he was telling me about the kind of music he was listening to. And I said to him, actually, you know what? Just start listening to classical music, because the music he was listening to was so in the lower modes. And he said that I don't really enjoy listening to kirtan. Fine. So I told him, why do you like classical music? He says, yeah, I don't mind. So then I was just telling him, actually, just listen to classical music, because by listening to classical music, at least it's in the mode of goodness. And then from the mode of goodness, because the situation changes, our consciousness changes, we can then practice Krishna consciousness in a more steadier way. So when we go to the working environment, sometimes we might not be able to bring people up to the level of Krishna consciousness, but we can definitely bring people up to the mode of goodness. And from the mode of goodness, they become more inclined to take up spiritual life. So I think it's not about pretending at the temple, in the sense, it's not about, oh, at the temple, I should bring my whole self and I shouldn't pretend, and I should be, I should just be me. No, actually, it's more the other way around. The person we are at the temple is the person we should take with us everywhere, rather than the other way around. Oh, the temple devotee should see the real side of me and the other side. No, actually, that side of us is the side we want to improve and change. But the side of us, once we come amongst the society of the Vaishnavas, the side of us that wants to be humble and appreciate the devotees, and be Krishna conscious and uplifted, that side of us should be taken with us everywhere. And that way we can really bring our whole self to every different environment. Does that make sense, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Panchali, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the lovely, wonderful session. I have a question on the practical side of things. So in terms of austerity, so I give my example. So I got a new job a couple of years ago, and I prayed to Krishna, please can I have this new job? And then when I got into the new job, when you do your job, you forget all about Krishna. The whole day just goes in the work, and then only at the end of the day you realize that you've actually worked for the sake of working. You haven't said a single thank you to Krishna. And then nowadays I just feel probably I should do part-time, and then because this job is eating too much into my the time I can I'd rather chant, or I'd rather do other classes. So I'm in a bit of a catch-22 situation sometimes, that should I continue with this job, which I actually got because of Krishna's mercy, but at the same time I kind of feel this is eating into my Krishna consciousness.
This is the thing. Thank you, Panchali. It's a nice point. So Krishna does give us the job. He does give us these opportunities, but then afterwards it's also up to us to stay Krishna conscious and to make it all work. And it is very hard to have a full-time job and have a spiritual life and have a family life and deal with all the other things we have to in the world. I think there's obviously the practical side of it. How much do we need to work for financial and maintenance reasons? We have to be practical. And the other side of it is, if we could be on part-time, if we were going to go to part-time, the two questions we would ask ourselves is, will I use that other half of the day that I would be working spiritually nourishing myself, or will I use the other half of the day sleeping and gossiping and eating, that kind of stuff? And if we're going to use the other half of the day in a transcendental way, and we don't need the extra money, then by all means we need to cultivate our Krishna consciousness. It's a no-brainer. Spend time in Krishna consciousness if that's what we're going to do with the time. But if we're the type of person that if we had the extra time, we would waste that time in lower modes, then it's probably better to be at work, because at least at work we're in the mode of maybe passion and goodness, and when we're just eating and sleeping and gossiping, we're going in the mode of ignorance. So it's very important to analyze what we would be doing if we had that time. And if we did get that time, just making sure that that time is spent cultivating our devotion to Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hope that makes sense. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are there any other questions or comments? Prabhuji, there was just one comment from Kruti, who joined us from Canada. She said, very nice class, but she had to leave now. I think the time difference, they start their day now. I hand over to Path Prabhuji. We are running out of time, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Nice class. It's really informative and clear all the doubts also. And first of all, we're supposed to be do on like a for please to Krishna and Vaishnava, and try to not to be offensive mood, and be simple and like a servant of a Krishna in this attitude and this mentality. So maybe Krishna will help us to tackle the situation in different moods and different angles and different circumstances. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
Also, thanks all the devotees who joined here. We really appreciate with you because you are joining a large number. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I request all the devotees, please unmute yourself and chant Hare Krishna mantra for glorification of His grace. Kanchanajba Das Prabhuji, please join. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vancha kalpa tarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. His Grace Kanchanajba Prabhuji ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Eldoret ki jai. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.